For the vegan pumpkin loaf, I hate saying vegan in front of anything because people just assume it's going to be bad. But this is a really good moist pumpkin loaf. And it just doesn't have eggs or milk or butter in it. But it has lots of other yummy things that make it a nice soft loaf. So we're going to need some vegetable cooking spray for our loaf pan. I got a can of pumpkin. The recipe calls for maple syrup. I use this pancake syrup and it's fine. Vegetable oil, some baking soda, some salt, nutmeg, cinnamon. The recipe calls for, allspice. And instead of putting allspice in it, the last couple times I've just been putting the amount of cinnamon for the allspice, and I think I prefer that. But you add the allspice if you'd rather. It also calls for cloves. I don't like a strong clove taste, so I just sprinkle some in. We also have some flour, some brown sugar, and some white sugar. That's 3 tablespoons of water. And some baking powder. So let's get started. Okay, I've got 1 3/4 cup of flour. You'll see on the recipe that I listed that it calls for whole wheat flour. I just use white for all of it. It also calls for a cup of dark brown sugar. I use a 1/2 cup of light brown sugar and a 1/2 cup of white granulated sugar. But if you were really going vegan, you might want to use organic. Anyway, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/2 teaspoon of allspice. I just have 1 teaspoon of cinnamon here. And I'm going to just shake. Well, I guess I'm not going to just shake. I'm going to put in just a little bit of cloves. Calls for a 1/4 teaspoon. That's probably less than 1/8 of a teaspoon. You do what you want. If you like the taste of cloves, add the full amount. 1 cup of pumpkin. 1/2 cup of oil. 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. Or pancake syrup. Works just fine. And 3 tablespoons of water. The recipe says that you can add chopped walnuts to it, or you can add some pumpkin seeds, pepitas. I like it just plain. I'm just going to put this in a loaf pan with a piece of parchment and bake it at 325 degrees for 45 to 50 minutes. I pulled this out of the oven. Toothpick comes out clean. And this is baked for 55 minutes at 325. It's a beautiful loaf of pumpkin bread. I'm just going to let it cool for a few minutes and then turn it out onto a wire rack to cool. There's our pumpkin loaf out of the pan. It comes right out. No problem when you put the parchment paper in there. And we'll have a slice of that after it cools. Delicious.